Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. This episode is called Will Wealth Watchers' New Technology Make You a Millionaire? Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. Also, I'd like to tell you about a service called HollywoodIsCalling.com. It's a great service that allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrities, so check them out. There are more than 100 movie stars, TV stars, and athletes to choose from. A live 15-second call is $19.95, and a live 30-second call is $29.95. You can purchase a call for yourself, or you can purchase a call as a gift for somebody else on a holiday or a birthday or Christmas, whatever the occasion is. There is nothing cooler than getting a live call from a celebrity, so give it a shot. HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now, let's get started. We're developing a new technology called Wealth Watcher that we believe will create more millionaires than any other technology or business in the United States. It will accomplish this in an extraordinary way by allowing people who watch a lot of cable or streaming television to get access to information that most of them could never afford under normal circumstances. Before we tell you more about it, we're first going to explain a lot of the problems that the television networks and video streaming companies are experiencing that gave rise to the demand for this new technology. The first problem they're having is the massive cost of licensing all the content that they're broadcasting or streaming. Content falls into two categories. The first category is content that they create and fully own. They pay all the production costs, and when the content is completed, they own 100% of the worldwide broadcast rights to it in perpetuity. It belongs to them and nobody else. Whatever money that movie or TV show generates from now until the end of time belongs to them. Option 2 involves licensing content from somebody else. Typically, what happens is that movies or TV shows are created by other studios or producers, and then they are released into the marketplace where they may become hits and generate a lot of money at the theaters or in other markets. Once that revenue stream has been depleted or exhausted, then those producers or that studio will offer that content to the streaming services for a licensing fee. Now, the length, duration, and cost of that licensing fee will be determined by how successful the content was when it was in the marketplace. If it was extremely successful and made a ton of money with many more sequels likely to follow, then chances are the licensing fee will be expensive and will have a shorter viewing window. Conversely, if the content was less successful when it was released, and if it had few or no major stars in it, then the licensing fee paid by the streaming services is generally far less expensive. In the beginning, when the video streaming services were first starting out, they really didn't have enough money to finance and produce original content. So they would license almost everything. They would go into the marketplace and acquire movies and TV shows that they could afford, and they would license and broadcast them to their viewers. As the years went by and more people began to pay to subscribe to streaming services, then these companies began to generate tremendous revenue. Literally mountains of cash, billions of dollars of cash. But there was a problem. Even though they had enormous cash flowing into their companies, they were also paying out tremendous amounts of money for their licensing fees. The cost and competition to license and acquire the content they show to their customers has become so significant and expensive that it is currently being referred to as the streaming war, because all the large streaming services and studios and networks are battling with each other to acquire the best content for their audience. The competition for content is now so intense that a popular comedian was recently reported to have triggered a bidding war for his latest comedy special that resulted in him eventually getting $40 million. Think about that for a second. $40 million for a 90 minutes worth of jokes. I'm guessing he probably hired 10 comedy writers and paid them about $25,000 each to write all the material. Then he probably spent a few weeks at local comedy clubs rehearsing that material. Finally, when it was all ready, he rented out a small theater and shot the special. I'd be shocked if the entire cost of production was more than $500,000, which means that after you deduct the expenses, he probably made about $39.5 million. Now, of course, you have to deduct whatever he had to pay his lawyer and his agent, but it is still an obscene amount of money. That's an astounding return on your investment. I don't think that people in the narcotics business come anywhere close to making that kind of profit margin. So here's where things get really interesting. The competition to license or promote content for their audiences is so intense and expensive that the cost of doing so is now consuming almost all the money the streaming services are making. In fact, one of the major streaming services is expected to spend about $17 billion this year and $20 billion next year just to acquire content. That's a huge problem because it's making it very hard to turn a profit. In fact, in addition to what they're spending on content, some of the streaming companies have also borrowed tremendous amounts of money in order to continue their operations and acquire new content. That mountain of debt that they're accumulating, that's also diminishing their ability to turn a profit. It's a very dangerous game, but it gets even more interesting. The events of 2020 caused a lot of people to stay home, and what did they do? They subscribed to streaming services and watched a lot of movies, which was great for the companies. But eventually, the economy will return to power and people will start going back to work in large numbers. And the presumption is that many of them will cancel their streaming subscriptions. The next problem is something we're going to refer to as garbage content fatigue. What's been happening a lot in recent years is that many of the streaming companies and TV networks are putting out a ton of garbage content. In fact, if you're a regular movie fan who watches movies several times a week, then you will quickly notice that some of the streaming services now include sections that allow you to rewatch some of your favorite movies again. The reason for that is that so much of the new content is unwatchable garbage that the companies are hoping to keep your attention and your subscription money flowing by getting you to pay to watch reruns over and over and over. So if the cost of content continues to skyrocket and people are going back to work and also being turned off by the terrible selection of movies and TV shows they see on their apps, how do you keep growing your audience and your streaming company without drowning in the growing cost of content acquisition? Well, we've created that solution and it's called Wealth Watcher. This new technology is capable of achieving something quite extraordinary. It will allow studios, streaming services, and networks to create broadcast content that is designed to help the viewer make money from the content they watch. It will accomplish this by generating revenue in a very unique way. Rather than boring viewers to death with commercials, the streaming service or broadcasters will incorporate short video messages before and after their movies, and these video messages will provide sports betting advice to viewers who like to legally gamble on sports and their favorite games. As you probably already know, 42 states currently have legal sports betting or are moving towards its full legalization. That means people can legally bet and make money on sporting events. Why is that significant or helpful to the streaming industry or to individual viewers? It's significant because the revenue being generated by sports betting dwarfs the revenue currently being generated by the studios, streaming service, and broadcast networks. By some estimates, the sports betting industry is about $300 billion a year. That's billion with a B. And the rumor is that that number is expected to triple over the next 5 years as more states legalize it and as offshore betting becomes legal in other foreign countries. Millions of people who currently pay for streaming services will be canceling it soon because the value just isn't there anymore. But what if, in addition to letting your subscribers watch great movies and TV shows, a streaming service also gave them access to the best sports betting experts and advisors in the world? People who routinely recommend which game or sporting event to bet on. These people charge a fortune to their customers, and that's usually unaffordable for most everyday people. What if instead of carpet bombing people with commercials, a streaming service or a network were to incorporate sports betting messaging into their broadcasts in a very unique way? The promotional messaging would tell current and future subscribers that you should subscribe to their streaming service, not just for the movies and the TV shows, but because it will give you access to the best sports betting advisors in the world. And having that information will allow you to place much more informed legal sports bets, and these could increase the probability of you winning those bets each week. Currently, there are sports betting advisors in the marketplace that are selling their sports picks to people who subscribe to their advisory services. Some of these advisors make 6 figures a week selling their betting information to their subscribers. And a lot of these guys, they don't actually place any bets themselves. They just sell the game picks that they recommend each week. Our Wealth Watcher artificial intelligence technology will do some extraordinary things, most of which we can't disclose yet, but some of the features we can reveal at this point include things like its ability to analyze the sports betting advice given by our licensed advisors and to determine its forecasting accuracy. We will then license that information to the networks and streaming apps who will then broadcast those sports betting advisory videos before, during, or after the movies, TV shows, or sporting events themselves. What does this mean for the streaming marketplace? Well, would you rather subscribe to a streaming app that charges you $10 a month to watch movies you've seen before, or would you prefer to subscribe to a competing streaming service that lets you watch movies, TV shows, and routinely gives you free sports betting advice from the top experts in the world? I think that when confronted with the option of subscribing to one service that charges me $10 versus another service that offers similar movies and TV shows for a similar fee, but also gives me free access to sports betting advice that I can use to make a lot of money with, I believe that tens of millions of people will choose option B. I believe that our new Wealth Watcher technology will allow networks, streaming services, and broadcasters to dramatically reduce their content acquisition costs at the same time that it gives millions of new sports betting enthusiasts a reason to subscribe to your network in an effort to increase the likelihood of placing more winning sports bets. While we've disclosed a portion of Wealth Watcher's capabilities here, we've also made a point of refraining from disclosing its most lucrative and proprietary capabilities, and we've done that for all the obvious reasons. We believe that once its development is completed and Wealth Watcher is launched, that its business model and technology and the technology it possesses will help create more millionaires than this country has ever seen. If you're a media company, broadcaster, or streaming service that is interested in partnering with us on this or other projects, then you can contact us by email at johnarkshow@gmail.com. Once again, that's JOHNARCSHOW@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you soon.